Hello, guys. Thank you for tuning in. This is True Crime Files with Ron Moxley. I've came across a pretty interesting story this afternoon. I would like to share with you guys, and it comes down to something going on in Tennessee. And this will be something that's only happened for the second time in U.S. history. We've got a murderer who went blind in prison, and his imminent execution would offend humanity, his lawyers argue. Um, it says someone will have to guide Lee Hall to the electric chair on Thursday when the state of Tennessee plans to execute him for murdering his estranged girlfriend nearly 3 decades ago. The 53-year-old man is functionally blind. The predictable result, his attorney says, of the State Department of Corrections' year-long refusal to treat glaucoma he developed behind bars. If the execution happens as expected Thursday evening, Hall will be only the second blind person put to death in the United States since the penalty was reinstated in 1976, his lawyers say. In their bid to spare his life, they cited his disability as a reason his sentence should be commuted, pointing to research suggesting that blind people are more sensitive to pain. Now, when you hear about how he killed his girlfriend, I don't think he was very sensitive to her pain. Lee Hall is a blind and vulnerable man, according to attorney Kathleen G. Morris. If confined to prison for the remainder of his natural life, Mr. Hall bears no practical risk of harm to anyone. The spectacle of his execution, guiding him to the gurney, would offend humanity, according to Kathleen Morris. Now, the Supreme Court was apparently unmoved. They decided not to intervene, and on Wednesday, another door to commute his sentence was closed when Tennessee Governor Bill Lee, a Republican, chose not to get involved. In a statement, he said the justice system has extensively reviewed Lee Hall's case over the course of almost 30 years. With mere hours remaining before he would be strapped to the electric chair, an option offered to those convicted before 1999, Hall spent Wednesday night on death watch. His attorneys turned their attention to the U.S. Supreme Court, calling the state court's ruling a rush to the electric chair. And unless the federal court intervenes, Tennessee will become the first state in modern United States history to electrocute a blind man. It's a sad day for justice in the state of Tennessee, said attorney Kelly Gleason. Now, the case represents a trend on death rows in the 29 states where capital punishment is legal. Prisoners condemned to die are getting older, and with age comes a decline in mental and physical health. And by the time they reach the execution chamber, they may have already spent decades in the decline. Now, if it presents the public with important moral questions, says Robert Dunham, Executive Director of the Death Penalty Information Center. Should the death penalty be carried out in circumstances in which execution doesn't seem to advance the interests for which it is imposed? And are we the type of people who kill disabled, frail people who are completely incapacitated? That's an interesting subject. Hall's vision problems were decades away on April 6, 1991. The day his abuse of his former girlfriend, Tracy Crozier, became fatal. A 22-year-old woman described by family as fun, easygoing, and free-spirited. Crozier had just broken up with Hall, then 24 years old. The couple met in high school and lived together before Hall became abusive. Crozier's sister, Stacy Wooten, told the Tennessean. After 6 years with Hall, Crozier moved out of the trailer they shared and into her family's home in Chattanooga. Hall refused to leave her alone. I didn't think he would actually kill her, Wooten told the newspaper. On the night of April 16th, the estranged couple sat in her car arguing. Hall became enraged with Crozier, laughed at him, and refused to reconcile the relationship, the Tennessean reported. He got out of the vehicle, stuffed a paper towel into a gas can, and lit the fuse. Then he threw it on his former girlfriend. Not realizing the severity of her injuries, Crozier fretted about her hair. She arrived at a hospital with third-degree burns covering 90% of her body. Doctors called her injuries the worst they had ever seen. A little over a day after the attacks, she died. Her family has been eager for Hall to be put to death, and his deteriorating vision hasn't changed that. In 2014, Wooten told the Chattanooga Times Free Press she hoped he would become completely blind by his execution date so that when the juice is going in his arm, he won't even know it is going to hit, she said. And he has to suffer while he sits there and wonders. The longer the better. Tracy had to suffer, and now he needs to suffer. In court papers, prosecutors have cited the family's long wait for justice as a reason the execution should go forward. In a response to Hall's request for a stay, they wrote earlier this week that the continued litigation subverts the family's entitlement to finality. Dunham said that at least one death sentence was commuted in part because of the inmate's blindness. He argued that executions of people who are elderly, feeble, or suffering medical ailments engender unease about capital punishment, already seeing declining support across the country. We have a sense that it is wrong to kill somebody who is exceptionally vulnerable, Dunham said, regardless of what it is they may have done. In the modern era of the death penalty, the only other known execution of a blind person happened in 2006. Attorneys for Clarence Ray Allen pleaded with the California governor and the Supreme Court to allow him to serve the rest of his life in prison, saying that the 76-year-old man in his condition amounted to cruel and unusual punishment. Allen was legally blind and used a wheelchair. After suffering a heart attack in the months before his death, he asked authorities to allow him to die if he had another. They refused, saying he would be resuscitated to allow the execution to take place. 4 guards helped him to the gurney where he was executed via lethal injection. Wow, guys, that's a very intriguing case that's getting ready to go to the, he's going to be executed in the electric chair. And he has that option being he was convicted before 1999. He will become only the second person executed that was considered blind in modern history. So I seen this case. I thought you guys would probably like to hear about it. Not like to hear about it, but be interested in the case the same way I was. I thought it was pretty interesting with the facts of the case, what the prisoner's family is asking, and then what the victim's family is asking. You know how in the violent manner of way he killed his ex-girlfriend. So I just thought I would make this video, guys, to cover this case. I might come up with some more, I don't know, and thank you guys for watching. I'll be on live tonight, and you've been watching True Crime Files with Braun Moxley. Thank you.